Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Don't Touch the Beard, in which I video, document and then talk nonsense over the top of games of Guild Ball. I made a second one, who knew? Before getting this video underway, I just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone that has been incredibly encouraging for my first effort on the Masons versus Morticians video that we put out not so long ago. Thank you very much everyone, you've been most gracious and very kind with your words. Also particularly like to shout out Jason from the Singled Out podcast, who I will put a link up at the end of this video, who's been very, very encouraging and has spent a great deal talking to me about that game. Who knew that the chap enjoyed talking quite so much? That certainly never comes across in their podcast. I've made no secret of the fact that I've been looking to, although I'm new to Guild Ball, to be picking up the blacksmiths as soon as they've been made available. They clearly have the best beard options in the game, and that's always a deciding point for me for obvious reasons. So with that in mind, and after chatting to the folks at Singled Out, they've recommended that I pick up Brewers as a good starting point to practice for blacksmiths due to their synergistic playstyle and overall defensive stats. So with that in mind, I am playing this week my good friend Jay, known as Jay Shutout throughout the interwebs, wherever you may find him, who will be using Morticians. So although I don't have a full complement of 10, as I just don't own that many Brewer models at this point, we've elected for a sort of semi-draft setup. So I've gone with Tapper and he with Obulus. I've taken Scum and Jay Dirge as our mascots, and then I've rounded out with Mash, Friday, Hooper and Spigot, whereas he's taken Silence, Graves, Ghast and Brainpan and good old Members. So we've elected to go with the standard deployment setup rather than the new experimental deployment rules that have just been released. I'm still getting used to the game after all. I'm not entirely sure we got this pre-match sequence correct. If we did get it wrong, if you wouldn't mind just dropping us a note in the comments just to let me know. I know people on the internet don't like to correct one another, but if you could stretch to that, I would massively appreciate it. So I win the initiative and elect to receive and then set up first. This is a bit I'm not entirely sure we got right, if I'm honest. Could have looked it up in the rules, but you know, who does that? I set up, as you're seeing on screen, clearly, it's a video. I give Tapper 5, Scum 2, Hooper 2, Friday 2, Spigot 1, and Mash 1. Jay, in turn, after a successful kick-off by Silence, the other side of that rough ground at the top of the screen, elects to give Obulus 5, Dirge 1, Silence 3, Ghast 1, Graves 1, and Brainpan 2. I activate Mash and sprint the other side of the rough ground and snap to the ball. My rough plan for this game is to keep the ball on Mash and keep it away from the Morticians as much as possible. Just get a massive fight in the middle. The Morticians start out with Silence, and he sprints forward and aims to cast Shutout on Tapper, and trying to force him to go last in the turn, but it is an unsuccessful play. With his remaining 2 influence, Silence then casts Fire Blast, which is successful against Tapper but misses Scum, setting Tapper on fire and doing 2 points of damage, which is reduced by 1 because of Tough Hide. I in turn activate Hooper, who is just out of range of Silence to walk up and hit him twice, so I spend the 2 influence to charge. Hooper is TAC 9 on the charge versus Silence's defences of 5 and 0. I get 4 net hits and take the Momentous Knockdown result. Morticians in turn activate Obulus, and I get the sinking feeling that normally accompanies an Obulus activation. So Memory does the Memory Dance, Obulus Shadow Likes, and then Obulus sprints forward and prepares to Puppet Master Hooper. Love this play by Jay. So Obulus Puppet Masters Hooper successfully and makes him jog into the fire, standing just in front of Scum, setting him on fire. I in turn activate Spigot, who tools up Tapper, making him a tool. Jay activates Dirge, who of course goes, who sprints up next to Silence after Memory's done the Memory Dance. Friday activates and she jogs towards the centre of the pitch and buys Dirty Knives against Silence. However, despite Silence being knocked down, I massively spoon the roll and just fling knives into the stand or something. Graves activates and sprints forward after, of course, remembering to do the Memory Dance. I activate Scum, who, due to his Shadow-like rule, makes a 2-inch dodge at the start of his activation, allowing him to get out of the way of that Fire Blast AoE. I then charge with him into silence. Jay plays the Brace for Impact card, giving silence stoic, meaning he ignores the first push, and the tough hide rule, so he'll reduce all damage results by 1. Scum is 8 tack on the charge versus the knockdown silence, so 4s and O's. I get 4 net hits, which is enough to wrap my playbook once. So that's Momentous 2 from Scum, reduced by 1 each time due to the plot card that Jay played. Ghast activates and Memory dodges forward 2 inches. Ghast then sprints around the rough terrain at the top, heading towards Mash behind the forest. He's the only one left, so it's no great surprise I activate Tapper next, who, despite being on fire, just runs straight through the Burning Inferno and prepares to smash Silence in the face. Tapper steams in and is 11 dice due to the charge in the crowd out from Scum. I get enough successes to wrap my playbook, and I put up Commanding Aura and do 2 points of damage, which becomes 3 due to Tooled Up. I buy another attack with Tapper, who is now attack 8 due to Commanding Aura and the crowd out from Scum. I get 4 net hits, which is a Momentous 3 damage, +1 for Tooled Up, +1 for Commanding Aura. With his last influence, Tapper buys another attack on poor old Silence and gets exactly the same result, taking him out and scoring my first 2 victory points of the game. I then spend the point of momentum gained from the takeout to clear Burning on Tapper, who wants to be on fire. Jay activates Brain Pan, dodging Memory forward, and jogs up and then Puppet shows Memory closer to Tapper, and then Puppet shows him again to buy an attack. I, in turn, declare a counterattack. Memory is tack 5 against Tapper's 3 and 1 defences. Jay gets 1 net hit, which is only enough for 1 momentous damage, which is reduced to 0 by Tough Hide. Tapper is apparently sober enough not to be completely weirded out by the tiny little puppet flailing at him, and swings in return. He is tack 7 due to Commanding Aura, and I get enough net hits to do 4 damage thanks to Commanding Aura and being tooled up, which smashes the little puppet to dust, but I get no victory points for the takeout because Memory doesn't really exist or something. So at the end of turn 1 it is 2-0 to the Brewers thanks to a Tapper takeout on Silence. The AoE Fire Blast from Silence fades at the end of the turn, and Hooper takes a point of damage for being on fire. I win the initiative and decide to go first. Now I make a fairly large mistake here, and it is my first turn using Brewers in my defence. However, it is still a mistake in that I allocate 6 to Tapper, none to Scum, none to Friday, 1 to Spigot, 2 to Mash, but I do give 4 to Hooper, which of course he can't take, so apologies to Jay, my opponent. So Silence comes back in from the Mortician deployment zone, and Jay then allocates 6 to Obulus, none to Dirge or Silence, 2 to Ghast, 2 to Graves, and 3 to Brain Pan and Memory. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I begin my turn 2 by declaring a charge with Tapper straight into Obulus, who unpredictably moves away, and Jay spends his home crowd point of momentum to buy a counterattack. So the beardy fella goes in hard, just like beardy fella do. With tack 10 against defences 4 and 1, I get 6 net hits, and after a lot of internal deliberation, I go with the Momentous Knockdown and Mark Target. So I buy another attack and keep swinging, so this time with tack 6 against 3s and 1s is 4 net hits, enough for Commanding Aura. My 4th influence buys attack number 3, so that's 7 tack against 3s and 1 is enough for Momentous 4 damage. Just keep swinging, just keep swinging. So tack 7 versus 3s and 1s, 3 net hits is 3 damage on Obulus. So with my last attack, clearly Tapper's stave arm is getting tired, as my tack 7 against 3s and 1 is enough for 2 net hits, so that is 3 damage, bringing the Ferryman now down to 4 wounds. So in quite a surprising move, Jay activates Brain Pan next, dodging Memory, doing the Memory Dance. Then he spends a point of influence to Puppet Master Memory into base contact with Tapper, and then Brain Pan himself jogs up next to Tapper. Brain Pan then uses Puppet Master to buy an attack with Memory on Tapper. Bloody hell, that's complicated. Whilst he's doing all of that, I've realised at the time that I've not activated Tapper's heroic play, which I'll have to chalk up to inexperience. So the wee fella, tack 5, sorry about that, that's appalling. Tack 5 against 3s and 1 is 4 net hits for 3 momentous damage, reduced by 1 by Tough Hide. I activate Hooper, who shakes momentum and then charges into Obulus. So Hooper steams in. He is tack 10. Jay very sensibly spends a point of momentum to defensive stance, so I'm against 4s and 1s. However, I get 6 net hits, wrapping my playbook. Now, due to Hooper's rules about hitting people when they're knocked down, gaining +1 damage and +1 from Commanding Aura, that makes it a Momentous 5 damage plus a regular 3 damage, taking out Obulus. So that's a point of momentum for the takeout and 2 victory points, bringing the score 4-0. Hooper then buys an attack on Brainpan, who, after checking, he is within 2 inches. So Hoops is tack 7 versus Brainpan's 4 and 1. So with 3 net hits, that's enough for a Momentous Knockdown. Now, this is, of course, the attack that should not be due to my misallocation early in the round. So again, apologies to Jay for this one, but we did play it at the time. So tack 7 versus 3s and 1 as Brainpan is now knocked down. So that is 6 net hits for a Momentous 5 damage and 3 damage for 8 in total. Throughout all of that, of course, I entirely forget to activate Hooper's True Grit. Again, I'm going to chalk that one up to an experience. Ghast then activates, Memory does the memory dance, Ghast charges Mash, who unpredictably dodges away but is still within Ghast's melee zone. I spend the momentum to both counterattack and to defensive stance, which in hindsight I probably would have been better off keeping the 2 momentum. So that's Ghast attack of 6, +4 for charging, -1 for the cover as Mash is in the trees. I have defensive stance, so I'm 4 and 1. So Jay gets 5 net hits, which is enough for Momentous Unmasking. So Ghast shows me his ugly, ugly face. I take 3 damage and push directly away 4 inches, ruining any chances of a counterattack. I activate Mash, who waddles as fast as his little legs can carry him towards the centre of the pitch. Mash then boots the ball into space, because kicking to space is a thing, as we found out in the first episode. The ball then happily scatters just to Spigot. If you're wondering what noise Mash makes when he walks, it is, of course, Dirge activates, Memory does the memory dance, and then Dirge just goes and flaps next to Spigot. I activate Spigot and spend a point of momentum to activate his heroic play times called. So a friendly guild model starting in advance within this 4-inch aura gains +2/+2 move. Entirely forgetting about Spigot's own football legend aura, I then make a pass to Friday, -1 dice for Dirge, and then I bonus time in to bring me back up to 3, although I should have had more because of football legend. Hey ho! Mistakes are made. My intention at this point is then to dodge Friday forward but remain within the times called aura so that she can make a sprint towards goal. All of a sudden, I suddenly realised that there is a loaded Graves right in front of me, and although Friday has not been damaged, she could be in a very, very precarious position if I don't immediately change my plans. So that's what I do. Instead, I dodge Friday behind the wall just outside of Graves' threat range. So this is stymied my attempts at goal, but hopefully I won't have a dead Friday. Jay then activates Graves, who, no longer having Friday as a target, decides between either Spigot, who is a fragile, drunken man, or Scum, who is a cat. Graves' charge is into Scum, looking to engage Tapper as well. I'm presuming that Jay is looking for Scything Blow here, but Scum unpredictably moves away. Naturally, I entirely forget about Friday's Shadow-like, so I activate her and jog her forward 6 inches. Jay activates Silence, Memory does the memory dance, and Silence moves sort of between the goal path of Friday and the goal. I activate Scum, remembering the Shadow-like, and then just jog him forward into the melee, ending my turn. At the end of turn 2, it is 4-0 to the Brewers, but the Morticians win initiative and elect to go first. Now, you may not be able to see him, but just at the bottom of the screen, near the, bottom of the screen, suddenly a wild Obulus appears, and I realise Friday's plans on goal are over. So Obulus is allocated 5 influence, Dirge 1, Silence 3, Ghast 2, and Brainpan 3. None for Graves. So I measure out Friday's goal threat and realise that she is able to score if left alone, and give her 2 influence, essentially dictating the Mortician's first activation, be that with Obulus or with Silence to make her go last. We shall see. I then give 3 to Mash, 1 to Spigot, 3 to Hooper, none to Scum, and 4 to Tapper. We then have a long conversation about dice probability and the impacting of bonus timing depending on how many dice are already being rolled. Maths, gotta love it. Jay then decides to activate Obulus, and Memory does the memory dance, so he is within tap-in range of the Brewer's goal. Obulus then Shadow Likes, and Jay spends the 4 influence required to cast Puppet Master on Friday to make her pass the ball to Obulus. See if you can spot the exact point where Jay offends the dice gods enormously and they abandon him forever. Remember, he needs 1/4. Oh, that hurt. Remember, folks, keep those offerings to the dice gods coming. So I activate Friday and Shadow Like away, although I'll still be within Obulus's melee ranges. We're base to base, and I admit it, I get cocky at this point. Clearly the gods of dice rolls have abandoned Jay, so I can sprint and with impunity. Clearly nothing bad will happen to me. Jay takes his parting blow. Attack 7 versus 4s and 1 with 4 net hits is a knockdown, sticking Friday on her ass and bringing a nice bit of hubris-based karma straight back to me, and the ball scatters just into my halfway line. I then spend a point of momentum to clear conditions on Friday and snap the ball back to her. Can I do that? It doesn't feel right watching this back. Can I? Let me know in the comments beneath the table. Can I do that? I spend the last point of Friday's influence to kick the ball to space nearly the melee at the centre of the pitch, and the ball scatters just next to the knockdown brain pan. The Morticians activate Brain Pan, and Memory does the memory dance, slightly repositioning into a better snapshot position in front of the Brewer goal. Brain Pan shakes Knockdown by foregoing in his advance and attacks Tapper. Brain Pan then goes to buy an attack on Tapper. It's not going to provide the momentum that he needs to then pass the ball and snapshot to Memory, sadly. And with the crowding out from Scum, he is only attack 2. Versus 3s and 1s, which is enough for 1 damage, which is negated by Tough Hide. He then passes the ball to Graves, less 1 dice due to crowding out. It is unsuccessful and the ball scatters away. Tapper is directly on the ball path, so he makes an interception and takes possession of the ball. I activate Tapper, who smashes Brain Pan in the face and gets 4 net hits, putting up Commanding Aura. So attack 7, plus 1 for Scum, less 1 for Graves, that admittedly we forgot to do on the previous attack. That is 2 net hits for a Momentous Knockdown, putting Brain Pan on his ass. Tapper then turns his attention to Graves. Attack 8 versus 4s and 1, 3 net hits is a Momentous Knockdown. I then buy a sprint with Tapper, as everyone now is knocked down and he can freely move. I use the movement steppers from Frozen Forge just to get this as accurate as possible. Although, of course, alternative steppers are available from bendyboards.co.uk. That's bendyboards.co.uk. See, Mike, plugged it again. I then spend Tapper's last remaining point of influence, a point of momentum to take a shot on goal, and another point of momentum to bonus time it. Make the kick, and that is that rare thing, a Tapper goal. Concerned about nosebleeds on Tapper, I then play the plot card knee slider, and he gets back into the melee. In a rare display of footballing prowess, Tapper then immediately catches the kick out ricochet from the Mortician's goalpost as the ball lands directly back at his feet. So after a quick break, we're back at the table, and Jay activates Ghast, who charges in against Tapper after making Memory do the memory dance. So a Ghast on the charge is 10 dice, less 1 for Hoop's presence. Is attack 9 versus 3s and 1s for 6 net hits, which is a Momentous Unmasking. This Momentous Unmasking hits Brain Pan, Hooper and Tapper. Brain Pan takes 3 damage and stops being pushed when he hits Scum. Hooper and Taps each take 2 points each due to Tough Hide. That unmasking has left Brain Pan on 3 wounds, and Hoop's blood is up, so he charges in against the knockdown Brain Pan, so that is attack 10 against 3s and 1s, getting only 4 net hits, but that is enough for 4 momentous damage, taking out Brain Pan. I continue to forget both Hooper and Tapper's heroic plays. Must work on that for my next game. I then use a point of influence from Hooper to buy an attack on the knockdown Graves. So that is 6 attack versus 3s and 1s. 2 net hits is enough for 3 damage. Dirge buys an attack on Spigot and sadly does nothing. I activate Mash, who declares a charge on Graves, and Memory gets a parting blow. So with the plus 2 attack for a parting blow, that is attack 7 versus 3s and 1, which is enough for 2 points of damage on Mash. Graves defensively stances, if that's an expression, and Mash is 11 attack due to the presence of Scum and Hooper. and also because of charging, versus 4s and 1s where the 3 net hits is 2 damage. I buy another attack with mash. This time Graves cannot assume a defensive stance. See? I know the English. And that's attack 7 versus 3s and 1s for 3 net hits is 2 damage. Silence activates and memory dodges towards mash. Silence himself then charges against Tapper, who declares a counterattack. Only rolls the 7 dice for the charge. When watching this back, I realise he should have been on 9, as Silence is attack 5 plus 4 for the charge. However, he gets 6 net hits, which is enough to tackle the ball and do 1 point of damage, which is negated by Tough Hide. Tapper return smashes the creepy fella in the face with a big stick. So it's 7 attack against 5s and O's. I get 1 net hit, which is enough for 2 points of damage. Silence then prepares to kick the ball into space, playing the Composure card, giving him +2 dice to his kick roll for a pass, -1 for the presence of the taps. And the ball goes, first of all, he's not happy with the placement, it's a bit too near scum, so he re-rolls, and well, you can see where the ball ends up due to the power of video. Right then, what you scum fans have been waiting for? I activate Scum. He is within 4 inches of the taps. He then makes a Shadow-like, and I play the second card, declaring a charge on Graves. So Scum is attack 4, +4 for the charge for 8, +1 for commanding for 9, +1 for Hooper, +1 for mash, makes a grand total of attack 11. Against 3s and 1s, I get 6 net hits, which, due to the presence of commanding order, is Momentous 3, Momentous 3, Momentous 3, doing 9 damage and 3 momentum in total on Graves, taking out Graves and bringing the score to 12-0 to the Brewers. Well then, big thank you to my opponent Shutout J, who, upon hearing I was trying out a new faction, also tried out a new faction. I think it's fair to say that Brewers are a lot easier to get hold of than Morticians, and I look forward to trying the Brewers out against his engineers, with whom he is very seasoned. Big thank you to Darksphere down in Lambeth, where this game was played, as are most of my games, and a massive thanks to those of you that have been so kind and appreciative of my first video, and of course to the good folks over at Singled Out. You should be currently seeing a link to their podcast on screen now. Click it and go and subscribe. Speaking of subscriptions, if you would like to subscribe, please press the button with the beard on it, and feel free to like this video, as it will help other Guild Ball enthusiasts find it. Cheers folks!